Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another What If discussion. In today's video, we're going to be going over what if Gohan took credit for beating Cell. But before we go on with the video, I want to introduce the guest. It's been quite a while since he's been on this channel, so I want to give a warm welcome to MJ from Geeklist TV. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me back on the channel.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for coming on. But so, imagine this scenario, MJ. The Cell Games ends, and instead of the announcer just being kind of brushed to the side like how he was, being confused, and asking Mr. Satan, what the hell happened here? Imagine him going over and his cameraman still having film in his footage and is able to still somehow broadcast over to the public. So they get a shot of Gohan in the laying down there, beaten up, and that image gets broadcasted all over the world, and he's known as the one who's beaten Cell. So there's no way that Piccolo can just use his telekinesis or whatever just to break the camera so that way no one finds out. His face is plastered everywhere now. So with this, what do you think going forward? What are your first thoughts?
That changes everything. Like that, I don't think people understand how much that changes literally everything, because an example of this would be, in the Budokais, right? Like how everyone was kind of shocked. There was a few people who knew what was going on, but most people were kind of shocked at the general idea of ki, people having these techniques where they can shoot literally energy out of their hands, people flying, stuff like that.
People have been sitting there hanging with their mouth open watching those fights.
In this hypothetical version of how events would have turned out and how things would have went on through the years, I don't think that would be the case anymore. I think people would actually not think stuff like that were tricks. People would actually, instead of, because you gotta remember, the Budokai was also kind of plastered on stuff. It was a big event. The fact that Gohan would be plastered all over the world, as his hero, that would change, I think, everything. Because before we actually get into how it would change the lives of the Dragon Team and Gohan and stuff, the overall world itself would probably be more accustomed to ki. An example of this would be My Hero Academia. If you've seen that show or you read the manga, it's kind of just how people are accustomed to heroes in that show, because it's just a common thing. So I think going forward, I think it would be more about people wanting to learn about stuff like this. Maybe Tenshinhan would open up that dojo a lot quicker. People would maybe want to learn from Krillin, who knows stuff like that. I think it would just become more accustomed, and people would actually be more used to ki. Imagine Goku coming back 7 years later, the world would be a different place, in my opinion.
Definitely. I mean, just for starters, instead of Satan City, it would be Gohan City, and maybe people would make the connection between Gohan and Goku whenever Goku defeated Piccolo Daimao, because back in the Cell Games arc, the King of the Earth actually recognized Goku.
That is true, and if we kind of headcanon that the tournament, that happens during the Buu arc happens in this hypothetical version still, and Gohan participates and everyone participates. If Goku comes back for that tournament, I can even see Goku being kind of meant to be as a hero. You know what I mean? Maybe it's even brought up about the whole Piccolo Daimao situation. So I'm just saying the world would be very different. But I guess actually moving on to Gohan and how it would affect him. Do you think? I mean, you were kind of I guess we fancy ourselves power scalers, I guess. So do you actually think Gohan would be weaker in this version? Maybe due to him possibly going to a private school, him kind of being brought up differently. Do you think that could have affected his overall power compared to how it did in the actual main timeline?
I think that Gohan would probably be around the same strength as what he was in the original Buu arc that we know. I mean, the whole thing is that Gohan slacked off those 7 years. And I think Gohan would slack off again, especially if he was in the limelight. But then again, I still think that Gohan would probably want to live by himself or kind of in seclusion, because he seems to be more of an introverted guy and not willing to bask in the fame, kind of like how Mr. Satan was. I mean, who knows what you're talking about with the tournament? Maybe Gohan could be sponsoring that tournament, because who knows, maybe in the sometime someone actually goes over to his house or whatever and actually tells him about the tournament. It's not Goku who tells him.
I was actually going to ask you this. What about Videl?
I honestly think that they might meet sooner. Because Videl, I mean, the whole thing, what intrigued Videl about Gohan was that she suspected Gohan about beating Cell. Like, kind of, like, whenever they were kind of interacting more down the line, Videl was very suspicious about her dad beating Cell. So I think that Videl might actually go and want to meet Gohan because Gohan supposedly surpassed her father.
It would be kind of interesting because just imagine a scenario where like Gohan's face has been plastered. He's like the new hero. Him being a hero kind of leads to him becoming a celebrity. He's offered to go to like some private school, maybe like a similar school to like maybe where Videl goes, or maybe it's not private, maybe it's just public. I'm just assuming private because him being rich and stuff, because of this. But assume he gets to go to school and stuff like that, right? Of course, Chi-Chi's gonna love that. She'll send him right away. Can you imagine him showing up, like at 12 years old or whatever age, when he does go to that school, and then like Videl's there, and like Videl's just kind of like, who do you think you are? My dad's still the strongest. Because you remember, she'll still be kind of like a kid herself. She won't be like the actual adult Videl we see later on in high school. So it would be kind of cool to see them interact there, or see her kind of like stalk Gohan, like on his way to school and like on his way back home, stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, I do agree with you. They would meet sooner, just due to the fact that I think, obviously Gohan would probably get to go to school sooner, or he'll probably be more in those type of, I guess, celebrity activities or whatever. I guess because of the fact that he did save the world. Yeah, he is a bit introverted, but I feel like, if they asked Chi-Chi or they asked him, he probably would take part in certain events, like obviously hosting the tournament, like you brought up earlier. Stuff like that. So I think overall, dude, him beating Cell and then actually getting the recognition for it, it changes kind of like the landscape of what would happen. Like we talked about this in the beginning of the video, I think the world itself would change. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be that the world kind of like sees Satan and the hero and mocks people who do those energy stuff and think they're tricks. It would be like where people are actually wanting to learn how to bring out their energy, more similar to like Videl wanting to learn, and then similar to how we saw in the recent episode of Super, where there's still people who believe in this and they're training like under Ten Shinhan. It would be like that, where more people just want to do it. These martial arts schools will be focusing on their energy and ki throughout all over the world. It would just be like a very different place, which is very interesting. Like that, just imagine at that point in time, like Goku gathering energy from the Genki Dama, like on a planet that has like everyone like all familiar with ki and energy and power.
Yeah. And I mean, Goku could probably get everyone's energy for the Genki Dama, since his and Gohan's voice sound very similar. I mean, at least in the Japanese. In the English version, that wouldn't work out. They'd probably just be like, oh, hey, I recognize that. That's Gohan's dad's voice, even though like they'd never heard it before. They'd have to do something like that for that kind of a dub.
One problem, though, here's one problem, that the idea that I proposed, that the world would change throughout those years because of like ki and stuff. If that did happen and people became more accustomed with like their inner energy and were able to bring it out, and like the overall planet itself is just like stronger, wouldn't that be kind of like a kind of a, what's the word? It would kind of
like a super Genki Dama.
No, not that. It would be kind of like hurtful for them, right? Because that means Babidi would be able to gather more energy quickly for Buu.
That's true. And one thing about that is that whenever Gohan gets drained at the tournament, I think people would react way worse than what they did, because they would see their savior. Yeah. They'd see their savior get taken out like that and just drop to the floor, like after being stabbed with a weird device. And even after he got healed, I think that people would go into a panic again.
It's very interesting. The more we're talking about this, like just how that scenario would have turned out, like there's so many what if scenarios here,
Yes, definitely. And just going on to more, just the biggest negative though, is that Buu will probably not get befriended by Mr. Satan, just because Mr. Satan is not the savior anymore, and I don't think that anyone could really befriend Buu besides him, at least from what I saw. And also, Buu might not ever spit out Grey Buu, since he was never told that killing was bad, because the whole thing that made him spit out Grey Buu was Mr. Satan telling Buu, hey, killing's bad, and then Buu just stopping that, and then afterwards, those two gunmen piss him off enough to make him spit out that Grey Buu.
That is true. However, though, what about Goten and Trunks, though? And we didn't really talk about them. In this scenario, do you actually see them being weaker or stronger? I can probably see what I mean. I could probably see Trunks being stronger, but Goten, I'm not too sure because Chi-Chi, I don't know how this hypothetical Chi-Chi would be after years of being like in the limelight. Like I don't know how she would actually be, how much her character would be affected, if affected at all. So it kind of comes down to would she have time to train Goten, or would Goten go straight into school because they would have the money and the fame to do so. Like would he be going like to freaking like elementary school, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Kid Trunks could be the one who trains Goten for all we know.
But I guess
But that sounds kind of unlikely.
yeah, but I think the same scenario will probably happen overall. Is that like maybe because of the whole fame stuff, Gohan probably wouldn't have trained that much, so he'll still be like probably around the level he was in the original Buu arc, if not maybe a bit lower. But he would probably just still be relatively around that level. I would assume Goku would still have his Super Saiyan 3 form, so maybe Goku would end up taking out Fat Buu. Who knows? But then of course that kind of affects what happens, like later in Super. Like we wouldn't really have Buu around, stuff like that. But whatever.
Yep. No Buu in Super, and then GT would be affected since there's not the wish to wipe out everyone's memory. So there's that too.
That's true.
But alright, I think we probably covered every point that we could make, unless you have any more.
Not really.
Alright. Well, everyone, make sure to tell us what you think in the comments section below. Did we miss anything that you wanted to hear? Let us know because you guys always come up with great ideas and things that we would never think of. Make sure to check out Geeklist TV. I'll leave a link in the description and on the screen right now. And until next time, guys, have a good day and thank you for watching.